All right, Miss Dianne Lawson, astrologer. I'm so happy you agreed to come on the Craving Consciousness podcast. Again, I think this is your third or fourth time. The audience absolutely loves you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's always so much fun to talk with you.
It is, right? We just get to flow in and talking about the stars and planets and everything that's growing on for us, right? And our evolution.
Right.
I love your stories. So today you said you were going to share with us about what real astrology is. And what do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is a lot of people, well, most people know about what sun sign they are, if they're a Taurus or an Aries or whatever. But that only describes 1/12 of the population. I mean, I'm not like all of the other Capricorns on the whole face of the earth, because real astrology has a lot to do with where in the heck the sun is, where in the heck the moon is, all the planets. And I still use Pluto, even though he's been downgraded to a dwarf planet. But we look at the relative positions between the planets. We look at where in the sky they are. We look at a huge amount of stuff. It takes years and years and years to master all the information. And so real astrology is a lot more than what you might say if you're in a bar and trying to pick up somebody, you know, what sun sign are you? It encompasses a lot of stuff. And I just wanted to tell you that I have now been an astrologer for 50 years. As
50, 50.
Yeah, 50. So April the 30th of 1973 was my first time I was a real astrologer. So it's been a long time. And I'm telling you, I have heard so many secrets. I just wanted to share with your listeners. I have clientele from all around the world, and I have dealt with all kinds of people. And I have heard the secrets of more people than you can imagine. I've had a U.S. governor, politicians, judges, a Pulitzer Prize winner, Tony Award winners, doctors, lawyers, nurses, social workers, prostitutes, criminals, murderers, and prisoners in a Mexican jail. Anyway, but what I like to start with all of those people, with all of my clients, and you know, people may not necessarily go along with that, but I like to start with the birth chart. And that is a map of the heavens at the moment you were born, the time, the date, and the place of your birth. And what I do is I have a computer now, thank God, because in 1973, I had to do the math by hand. But if I know where the planets were at your birth, I can help you with all areas of your life. It can help you with everything. Health and relationships and how to make money and career and children. And I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't tell about myself because it puts me in a really bad light. But I was doing many readings for people, and this woman sat down in front of me and I was doing her birth chart. And I just blurted out, my God, how many times have you been married? And I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. You know, you're supposed to be positive. And she said 13. But I told my husband this morning I wanted a divorce.
Wow.
And her birth chart did not, and she was pretty young. She was like in her 30s. So who knows how many she's going to have. But the birth chart did not tell me she was going to have 13 marriages, but it did tell me she has some issues regarding marriage connected to her early childhood. And she needed to do, and I should never say should, but I think in this case, she probably should have, you know, gotten to therapy, done some heavy work on herself to figure out why in the heck she was doing this, because her chart was just really needy and really dysfunctional in the marriage section. And
I have a question right here then. So if she does the inner work, but her chart will stay the same, right?
Her chart stays the same, but it is just, she's still going to be needy. She's probably always going to be married, but she cannot pick somebody like the next person who sat down at my chair was her husband, who just got out of jail. And she, you know, didn't have a job, you know, but he was not, and I'm not saying all people who just get out of jail are bad, but, you know, she could have taken her time to get to know people. She could have been more thoughtful. She could have, I don't think the chart is set in stone. It shows propensities. It does certainly show abilities and needs and wants, but I have a pretty horrible birth chart when it comes to relationships. And I've been married 3 or 4 times, depending on what you count. I don't count the annulment, so I should say 3 times. But my husband and I are really happily married, and we've been married for 28 years. But I did a lot of inner work. I was in therapy a lot. And I used astrology to pick this guy.
I remember she shared the story, I believe, on the podcast. At least I know with me that you did his chart and you knew right then.
Yes, he came to me as a client. I love this story. Everybody who's heard me speak has probably heard this story at least once, because I love it so much. He came to me as an astrology client. And just before that, I had been in therapy, and I decided I'm just not going to do this anymore. I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have a date. I'm not very good at this. And I was happy, you know, that's what it happens often. But he came to me as an astrology client. And the second I saw his chart, I knew I was going to marry him. I just had no doubt, Because it was just, you know, and that's something else astrologers do. They can take the 2 birth charts and you can look at them and see, do they fit? Do they match? What are the compatibilities and the incompatibilities? And to me, that's been really helpful in this relationship, because we are terrific when we leave the house, when we travel. And so by golly, we took like 10 trips last year. You know, we travel. We've been on 5 continents together, and we just go all around the world because it's so much fun. He's a great travel buddy, but we do not cook together. And we know that we just are not compatible at home. And that doesn't mean all the time, but that means he's always in my way when I want to get in the refrigerator. He's always in my way putting clothes in the washing machine when I want to. You know, if we cook, we spend most of our time waiting for the other one to get out of our way. But I'm telling you, I would much rather have those are inconsequential. We just don't cook together.
Well, I like that. And I just recorded an episode that's about to come out about conscious dating. I feel like, you know, the universe is always so perfect when it comes to like the timing, right? Like this falls right in alignment with that conscious dating. If you're looking at both people's charts, and we're consciously doing it so that we can, you know, be cohesive with each other, or know where, you know, if they're going to get in your way in front of the refrigerator, or if you just need to make other plans with cooking, you know what I mean? I think that's super cool. It's a conscious way. There's so many people that are conscious out there that will go and do a lot of this work, like looking at the charts or going to therapy together, just so that they create this super awesome foundation for a long-term type of relationship.
Right. Astrology can be really helpful. I do chart comparisons between 2 people often and look at each individual's birth chart. And I like to have, you know, both of the couple together so that they can hear what the other person needs, what the other person wants. So they can try to, you know, be that for the other person. You know, some people really like gifts. I don't care about gifts, you know.
Right.
I'd rather spend the money on a trip, you know.
Yeah.
But if my husband really liked gifts, I would have to be consciously trying to meet that need. Thank God he doesn't want gifts either. So, you know, it works out.
I love it. So this in essence is what you're saying is real astrology.
It's real astrology to look at where real astrology, the birth chart is the foundation of everything I do. It really tells, it's kind of like the heavens are going to help you get through everything. I spent a lot of time talking about relationships. What do you need? What do the other people need? What do you need to watch out for? What are the red flags? What are you, if you have a tendency to get involved with a liar, a cheater, a drunk, you can pay attention to the red flags early. Pay attention. You are not destined to, can have this long string of horrible people, but you have that tendency, you have blinders on, and maybe it's because you're naive, maybe it's because that's what you grew up with, maybe, but I believe in free will, but I also believe that astrology is kind of like a weather forecast. This is what's going to happen. Probably, and if you don't like it raining, take a frickin' umbrella,
Yeah, so it's giving you tools to look forward to, or to work on with yourself.
Right. And people change through their lifetime. We're not the same people we were at 2 or 14, thank God. And the chart changes. The birth chart always stays the same because you were just born at one time at one place, and that's kind of like your essence, your personality, what you came into this life. I think it is a roadmap for what in the heck you're supposed to be doing, what you plan to do in this life, and then you can choose to do it or not. But if you're supposed to be in a healing, helping profession, and if you're supposed to be a physician and you're working as a doc worker, maybe you should think about, well, would I be happier being a physician, or vice versa.
So like mine says, I haven't had it read in a long time, but it's all about like psychic development, all about like spiritual awareness. Like, I guess I have like a lot of blank stuff. I don't know, but and I worked for commercial real estate for 15 years, and I thought I was going to die.
Absolutely.
Get the soul right out of me. And so I'm in my industry, and it just like, lights me up. I'm supposed to do this.
Right.
And I think it's cool when you're doing it, and then you find out from your chart afterwards, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the right thing.
Right, you are. Right. Well, I'm doing the right thing, and I love it. I love it. Most people my age are not still working. And I will probably never give it up because I love it. I love it. And because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I took some time off, as you probably know, but I have to come back. Like, I get on a podcast, or I talk to one of my clients, and I just lit right up, it's like what I'm supposed to do.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, let's say I will probably get sidetracked with you a lot, but anyway, I started to say that, the birth chart talks about who you are and what you came into this life to do. But we do progress, we do change. And in addition to the birth chart, I do what I call 12-month forecast with my clients. And if we would talk today, I would talk about the next 12 months. We can do it any time of the year. And some people do it several times a year. But anyway, once a year, most of my clients get together with me at least, and we talk about the coming 12 months. It's kind of like the astrological weather. If it's going to be a really good time to do something, you should grab that opportunity because it will be easier. Sometimes we just butt our heads against the wall and just work, it doesn't get anywhere. We're doing the wrong thing, or we're doing it at the wrong time. Timing is everything. But what I do when I do the 12-month forecast, I have to have the person's birth chart, because everything is based on the birth chart. It doesn't matter what the planets are doing up in the sky if they're not interacting with your individual birth chart, because we look at all the planets in the sky, what they're doing, and they're constant motion. So I see how they're affecting your birth chart. But I also use eclipses to see if they're affecting your birth chart. And I look at what we call secondary progressions. Sometimes people just call them progressions, but what they are, and I didn't used to talk about this because it didn't make sense to me, or I couldn't explain it to people. I didn't, but secondary progressions are also called day for a year progressions. And what that means is if you're 36 years old, the computer draws a map of the heavens 36 days after your birth. You know, if you're 50 years old, it draws a map of the heavens 50 days after your birth. And I knew it worked. Astrologers use it. We've been doing this for a long time and it works, but it didn't seem to make sense. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me why it made sense. Because, as an astrologer, I think the larger heavens mirror us. I don't think they cause us to do something, but I think there is a correlation and a connection between big and little, big heavens, smallest. I'm a feng shui consultant. I think there's a correlation and connection between the big home and the smaller us. And it doesn't mean the home is causing us to do anything, but there's a correlation and connection between big and little in terms of space. Okay, the secondary progressed planets show that there's a connection and a correlation between big and little in terms of time. Okay, you got that.
Okay, in terms of time. Okay.
That blew me away, and I've never heard anybody else say that. It's like it blew me away, and I don't know if it blows other people away as much as it does me, but it's like, oh my gosh, we're connected big and little and everywhere, and we can't even imagine, what in the heck do the planets, 36 days after your birth have to do with anything, but it does show the soul's unfoldment. So I include the secondary progression. So I'm telling you, when people come to me for a birth chart, I have one piece of paper, they're a birth chart. But when people come to me for a 12-month forecast, I have like 6 or 8 pages of stuff because all these planets are moving and the secondary progressed planets are moving, and there's all this stuff happening, and it's based upon who we are, it's based upon who we are. So I do that, and I do other things like pick timing for things, and I should always do this. I don't always do it, but I should always time my important things. And I did time our wedding. I don't know if you've heard this story too. Did you hear about this? Okay. I timed our wedding for January the 1st, 1995 at 1:04 p.m. I wanted it at 1:04 p.m. So I found a judge who happened to be married to an astrologer friend of mine. And he said he would go into the courtroom on January 1st when the courtroom was closed, of course, for a special, favor to me and marry us at 1:04.
I love it.
Yeah. So I had my very close family members there, and the judge got finished early. So he just stood there for a few minutes staring at his watch, not saying a thing. And you cannot imagine how tense the room was, like, what is going on? And finally, my husband's mother couldn't stand it anymore. She said something like, what's happening? And so my husband said, photo opportunity. And so people started taking pictures. And then the judge says, I now pronounce you husband and wife right at 1:04.
I love it. I love it.
Great. But I think that's one of the reasons why, that helped us have a good marriage. It really helped us. And I really picked a great chart for lots of travel, and we travel more than anybody. It's just great, so it helped us get what we want in our marriage. And I use it to, I've had thousands of things published, and I use it to approach a new editor or a new publisher, because that's the kind of the birth of the relationship. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've had so much published, because I'm kind of an average writer. So but I give them what they want when they want it, and I never miss a deadline, and I also time it. So anyway, horary astrology. I have to talk about horary astrology. It's really
what was that?
It's called horary, like horoscope.
Okay.
Horary. It's HORARY. R-Y, and nobody pronounces it right. And I don't even sound like I'm pronouncing it right when I say it. So my clients just say, I have a question. But horary astrology can answer any question. It can answer anything. And I don't need to know anything about you. I don't need to know your birth information. But what I do need to know is the time that I understand the question. Like if you called me up and had a burning question, you could probably catch me. And I have clients that throughout the years have sometimes like called me every day with a question, and I'm often available, and I think, oh my gosh, they think I have nothing to do all day except answer them. But the theory is that if you really have a burning question, the universe will answer. And so they call me up and they ask me a question. I push the button on my computer that says now, and the computer draws a map of the heavens for that moment. And I look at it, see where the planets are, and I interpret that, and I answer. And it's like freaky. It used to give me goosebumps, like how in the heck? But once again, it shows the correlation. I mean, the whole heavens are here to help us.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of, what is it? It's a where you open a book at that exact moment if you have a question.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that too? So I love, we could nerd out forever talking about this stuff where you're diagnosing it with the planets and the stars, and where mine is like, my brain is thinking like, the quantum field is wherever your focus is at that moment, right? Wherever your focus is. So even opening a book and looking for a specific question, it's going to be there on that paragraph. And like you said, it will blow your mind. You're like, how did I get that message?
Right. Yeah, I used to do that with the Bible.
Yeah, I think it's called Biblia. I almost want to say it's called something something.
Yeah. Well, I think if you really, really have a burning question and you're open to hear, I think you'll hear it.
Yeah.
So, okay, now I talked about what astrology can do to people personally. I'm going to talk about what it can do kind of globally for the world as a whole. Of course, everything I say about what it does for the world as a whole, I incorporate that information into their yearly, their 12-month forecast. However, I have it all jammed up with all this other stuff. I don't. But I want to explain. You asked me to talk about what the heck is going on in 2023.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So,
and I want to talk about 3 things.
Listeners, listen up. This is the juice for you. What's happening in 2023?
And I think it's going to be much easier than 2020. I was like freaking out talking about 2020, and I just knew it was not going to be easy. And I think it's going to be easier. But, life it's always got bumps and, but anyway, I think it's going to be easier than that. But the three things I want to talk about that are going to have a big influence on us in 2023 are one is Saturn is in Pisces, and then Pluto is in Aquarius, and then Pluto kind of comes back into Capricorn. So Saturn in Pisces, Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto in Capricorn. And I wanted to mention that in December of 2022, I asked 10 astrologers and a mystic to give forecast for 2023. And they all sent me stuff. And so I put that on my website. So people might want to go to my website, which is www.diannelawson.com. That's DIANNELAWSON.com. And go to articles, and the article that says 2023 forecast, because it'll have other people's ideas about what's big for 2023. And some of them came up with stuff that I would have never come up with. So it's kind of interesting to see what other people thought. And
I like that. We'll link that in the show notes as well.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. First thing is, Saturn is in Pisces. And to start, I want to tell you with a real Saturn in Pisces story that happened to me. And this happened many years ago when that man who I don't count as a marriage that I got an annulment from,
Okay.
after the annulment, he stalked me. And I was calling the police on a daily basis for various things he was doing. And it was kind of a scary time. But one Saturday morning, I had this incredibly intense dream. I've never had such an intense dream in my life. It was so intense that it woke me up from a dead sleep. And I just sat up in bed like, woo, what was that about? And what I dreamed in that dream was that my little dog Heidi was out in the middle of the street in front of my house, having gotten hit by a car. And it was like, woo. So I immediately ran out into the backyard to see if Heidi was in the backyard. And Heidi was this little Cairn Terrier that looked exactly like Toto in The Wizard of Oz, and a really cute little dog. Anyway, she was in the backyard and was safe and looked healthy and fine. And the gate was locked and everything looked okay. And I was just startled and stunned, and the dream was so powerful that I made myself a cup of coffee and sat out in my sofa in the front side of my house by a window, and was thinking, like, what in the heck was that about? And I was trying to analyze it, like what the dream was trying to tell me. And my stepfather had been a psychiatrist, and I have one of my degrees is in psychology. So I was trying to analyze the dream from a psychoanalytic and a psychological perspective, like what was that dream trying to tell me? And then I had gone to the School of Metaphysics, and I was trying to interpret the dream from a metaphysical, the dream was trying to tell me something. So I was sitting there by my window, in front of the house, trying to figure out what it was. And I heard this tiny little whimper. And because I was awake because of the dream, and because I was sitting there in the quiet, doing nothing but thinking in front of that window, I could hear the whimper. And so I ran out, and Heidi was in the middle of the street, and she was bent. I've never seen a dog bent like that. She was standing, but her front legs were here, but her back legs were here, and she was trying to walk like this, she was bent. So I grabbed her up and ran into the house, called the vet, and he said, meet me at the office. And he fixed my dog. The dog was fine. But he said, if I had not brought the dog immediately in, the dog would have died of shock. So I am firmly believe that was a psychic dream that saved my dog's life.
Okay. And this has to do with Saturn?
That was back years ago when Saturn was in Pisces last time. Okay, now I'm going to explain why I told you that dream. Okay. Now, we're going to kind of back up, and I'm going to explain that. When the outer planets change signs is a big deal, because they don't change signs very often. They're so far away from the sun, they go through the signs of the zodiac pretty slowly. And so it's a big deal. And Saturn entered Pisces March the 7th of 2023. And it's going to stay there until May 24th of 2025. And then it's going to go briefly retrograde or backward through into Aquarius. And of course, it doesn't go backwards, but it appears to go backwards based on our relative positions. And until August 31st of 2025, and then it'll go back to Pisces until February the 13th of 2026. But people don't need to remember that, because I think Saturn is going to feel like it's in Pisces from now until February of 2026, because it's still going to have this influence. Now, what Saturn is a Saturn. I think it's the primary karma planet. It indicates our karma in life. I think the whole chart indicates karma. I think it shows why we came into this life, but it has to do with structure and rules and responsibilities and reliability and discipline and doing stuff every day and schedules and lessons to be learned, but it's practical and useful. And you can underline the word useful because it's useful. It's practical. It deals with the real practical world. Okay. Pisces is spiritual, emotional, psychic. It's like, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with Saturn. It's mystical, it's full of, it has to do with dreams and spirituality, connection to God, hidden things. And if they don't sound like they have much to do with each other. However, when they're together, Saturn gives us opportunities to reach our goals through hard work. It's really good for artists to be working daily. It's and actually not just have stuff in their head, but actually stuff in the physical world. Saturn in Pisces brings this artistic, creative, psychic, spiritual world down into reality, which is exactly what my dream did. It made it useful. It wouldn't have mattered if I had a dream, my dog got hit by a car, and I was in Italy and my dog was in Topeka. Wouldn't have mattered. I wouldn't have done anything about it. And it wouldn't have been useful, but this one was useful and it saved my dog's life. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is I know you teach a class in psychic.
Yeah, it's called Awaken. It's a psychic and mediumship development program.
This is a year people should take that class. You should really promote that class, and I will promote that class for you because I think people should take that class, because this year, and do they have to like do homework or do it daily, or do they have to be disciplined about learning it?
Yes, they do. They actually do. They get assignments each week and it's on a different topic. And so they could, if they're going to keep up, then yes, it is a discipline that they have to like watch the video of the week and turn in the assignment of the week.
Okay. See, this is when Saturn is in Pisces, they can do that. They can do that. It's kind of like the universe will help them be disciplined and help them to develop that psychic ability. This is the time for all of us to be paying attention to our dreams and our psychic hunches and our intuition, and have them be useful, because this is a time where it can be just really, really helpful. So anyway, and this is also the time, if you're an artist or creative person, use it. I mean, it's a big deal. It's easier. I mean, sometimes we can do it, but sometimes it's just nice to have it help. It's like,
well, what you're saying to me makes sense too, because like I'm the creative, right? I'm content creating constantly. And I see, and I'm a Gemini air sign, right? So sometimes I'm like, oh, these are such great ideas. So what you're saying to me is like, put in that daily work, girl, and bring those ideas, come out your mouth into this planet.
Right. Okay. Right. This is the planet. The universe will be helping. It will be helping. So it's time. Okay. And then let's see. I wanted to talk about, I've got to talk fast because I get off topic sometimes, but the next thing I want to talk about is Pluto into Aquarius. And I mentioned before the 2023 forecast on my article on my website. There were a few of those people who thought this was the biggest deal of the year, because Pluto moves so slowly. The fact that it's moved into Aquarius, and it moved into it March 23rd of 2023, but it's going to be there for about 20 years, and it's going to do some retrograde dancing with Capricorn, but it's going to be there for 20 years. And this is like a big, big deal. Pluto is a planet of transformation, of power. And Aquarius is a sign of people, the common masses. And so I think the key words for Pluto and Aquarius is freedom to the people. And people are going to be rising in mass. And the last time this happened,
Sounds like, yeah.
the last time this happened was 1778 and 9, when it started. And that was when, the revolution swept across Europe, and it brought freedom to people, but it also brought reign of terror. The people had power. I don't know if you know what happened in France, but and it brought the reign of terror, where people were doing probably worse things than the royalty were, because they were killing all the royalty, and they were storming Versailles, and they were so I should always say everything in astrology can be used either positively or negatively. Nothing in astrology is good, bad. And I try really hard not to use the words good and bad, because everything can be used positively. And I think everything is ultimately for our growth and our evolution, and is ultimately positive. And it's really hard to tell what's positive or negative until, well, it's impossible, because some of the things that, appeared the hardest in my life were probably the best things that ever happened to me.
Amen to that.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think during the next 20 years, while Pluto's through Aquarius, we're going to notice ourselves individually and collectively being a lot more individualistic, humanitarian, and idealistic. And I'm telling you, have you checked out Chat GBT, or any of the artificial intelligence writing or artistic programs? It
I haven't checked them out, but I see all the buzz about it on my social.
Oh my gosh. Well, see, this is definitely Pluto and Aquarius, because Aquarius also rules technology and artificial intelligence. And I mean, during the next 20 years, that's just going to explode. I've told you I had thousands of things writing. Well, I'm telling you, Chat GBT can write better than I can. Yeah. You can write anything. You can say, I want you to write a short story, and like Hemingway would, but I want you to write about unicorns or something. It'll come up with a story. It'll write poetry. I mean, it can do anything. It's like freaky. It's freaky. I don't know what the next 20 years is going to bring, but it's beyond my imagining. But that's the Pluto in Aquarius. So that's like a really big deal. Now, I should say that Pluto is really about transformation and healing, and it's also about destruction. So it's going to be destroying a lot of the old ways of doing things, which can be good or bad depending on your point of view. But we're going to be just using technology more and 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 more. So yeah. You don't look happy.
No, I'm just really I'm really deep into this with you. No, I totally see that.
Oh yeah. It's just
like, if you ask me, right, I think our awareness is just going to go off the charts too, because as all the, like you're saying, the AI, artificial intelligence, I feel like our awareness and our ability to expand our consciousness is going to go through the roof too.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be a time of major transformation. Pluto is a planet of transformation. It's going to be just really transforming. And okay, what I wrote about, the third thing, I told you I was going to write about three things. The third thing I'm going to talk about, Pluto and Capricorn. And I know I said Pluto went into Aquarius, but it's going to retrograde back into Capricorn, and then it'll go forward again. And it just, I think when Pluto leaves a sign, it just tries to get its last little punch in, it's like, got to do it quick. And so I think what's going to happen, and this is what I wrote about in that 2023 forecast on my website. I think it's going to just really be transforming and eliminating what's no longer needed. And it's going to be bringing things to the surface that have been hidden. And it is going to be just really doing away with plutocrats, the top dogs, and lots of changes in governments around the world, and their leaders and secrets are going to be brought to light of important people, and which is interesting because that coincides with Saturn in Neptune, because Neptune is among other things the sign of lies, and so Saturn is going to bring all those people who have been lying, and we're going to be hearing about a huge number of lawsuits, and we're going to finally be finding out the truth now that Saturn is in Pisces. I mean, we're going to be finding out what's really been going on. So
yes, I think
yes,
exciting time to be a human, right?
it is exciting to be a human. It's really transformative, and yeah, it is exciting to be a human, and I'm really, really glad I'm here now. So
I'm glad you're here now too, and you're explaining to all of us why we're here. No, just kidding.
yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I love it, and I think I see a lot of that stuff like coming through too, like the listeners, like that would be great for them to like leave a comment or something along these lines, like everything she's just sharing with us, and she's giving us all the actual scientific proof of what planet is going to go where and what that means for us. And then some of us maybe didn't even know all this, but did you feel like what's coming down the pike feels the same? You know what I mean?
People are feeling that things are in shift. People can tell.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. Wow. Wow. So
Yeah.
we everybody knows where to find you, DianneLawson.com, and your website has everything, and get on her email list, because like you said, it's people are very responsive to it, but she sends out very high valuable emails. I'm on her list.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope people kind of go around, because I have all kinds of stuff on that website that might be useful, not only what I do, but I have, I have a whole lot of articles, and I have a lot of podcasts, including podcasts I've been on your show before. I put them on my website too.
Yeah.
So if they're interested in astrology or feng shui, they might want to just kind of meander around and get a lot of free information.
Absolutely. Yes, it's so valuable. And I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast again.
Oh, thank you. I love being on your show. You're just always fun to be with.
I love having you on the show too. And we're going to be needing to know what's going on all these next years. So you'll be back on again. So thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you.